Hi, and welcome or welcome back to A Considered Craft, a podcast about the choices we make as we make. My name is Jess, and I am coming to you today from Encinitas, California, on the unceded territories of Sioux, Cherokee, and Iroquois people. I have a lot to tell you about. It's actually been a while since I've done a traditional podcast episode, and I started looking at all my finished objects and all the projects going on that I wanted to talk to you about, and sort of scoped it down and thought that I would tell you today about, three finished objects and 2 works in progress, and a bonus finished object that was a gift. So why don't we go ahead and dive in? I'm going to start with the first finished object that I was the very lucky recipient of, and it's this beautiful hat. I'm going to come in a little closer and show it to you in just a second, but I wanted to pull up the details so I could tell you this was a gift from a very, very dear friend of mine who's also a knitter and has been such an inspiration to me. And she made this vintage prim by Andrea Mowry, and I will show you a close-up. It's got this unbelievable, I think this is brioche, and then it's like slipped stitches. I'll turn it so you can actually see. You can wear it on the side that does not have the brioche pattern. It's like these sort of slipped stitches, I'm guessing. Anyway, it's wonderful, and I love it, and I'm super happy to have something beautiful that my friend made me and wanted to show off. This is just a wonderful, wonderful pattern. So Vintage Prim by Andrea Mowry. What a great way to show off these colors. The second thing I wanted to show you is kind of funny. I'm not somebody who has remade patterns a ton. There are definitely a few, but this is the bandana cowl by Pearl Soho. Let me just give you a visual of the whole thing. Pardon the train in the background. I'll try to take that out as best I can in editing on the back end, but. So this is an extremely popular pattern, and I really wanted to highlight it because I made one that I thought I was going to give as a gift, and I found myself continually pulling it out and wanting to put it on, so I decided to keep this one for me, and I made 6 more for friends as gifts. So this is a very simple, I think it calls for Aran weight or a heavy worsted, but you could easily, hold multiple strands together. It is a very simple bandana cowl. It's a free pattern by Pearl Soho that you can find on their website and also on Ravelry. And I made this one out of a farm yarn. My friend Paula has a small flock of sheep in New Paltz, New York, and called White Barn Farm. So if you would like to purchase yarn from Paula, you can actually go, I think she's still doing online ordering. If you are in the Hudson Valley area, you can actually go by. She closed her yarn store at the beginning of COVID, but she has this brilliant thing she calls the yarn shack that is on the property with the sheep, and it's a honor system. You pay her via Venmo or leave her a check, and it's basically always open, and you can go by anytime you want. And so she has all her yarns in there, but I think she still ships yarns. But I'll tell you the other yarns that I made it out of also. But this is an undyed, I think these are Cormo crosses. I'm gonna look what this, I think it's a Cormo. Her sheep are, I think, Cormo cross. So it's a beautiful undyed color, and I wear it all the time. It is currently 59 degrees Fahrenheit where I am, and it's a little overcast and a little bit of wind today, so it's just the right thing for a hat and a cowl. This also would be great you know, if I were at home in New York, I would be bundling this up under my sweaters at home. Certainly when I went outside, I might even put another layer over it with how frigid the temperatures get. So it's just an easy to wear, easy to layer piece. The ones that I made as gifts, I'm cross-referencing my notes. I think one of the really beautiful ones that I made and gifted to a friend, I made out of ovejas, which is another farm yarn from Prado de Lana Farms. They definitely are at multiple fiber festivals and also do a lot of online ordering. And that was a naturally dyed in a green color. If I can easily put a picture in here as I'm talking about each of these, I'll throw in a picture so you can get a visual, but that's also like a very beautiful green, so soft for next to your neck. I made another one for a gift for a friend out of a farm yarn that I got at a yarn store in Columbus, Ohio, where my friend lives, who I created this gift for. So I got it out of, it's called 614 Knits, which is the yarn store in Columbus, Ohio, where I bought it. And this is yarn that she has created in a relationship with a farm in the area. So it's called Pride of Ohio. And I used, that was a Corey Blueface Leicester blend. So again, a like soft next to skin, but hardy sort of Aran weight undyed farm yarn. Then I got a little bit more creative and I started striping it. So the pattern is written with short rows and I was like, oh, how am I going to stripe short rows? But I just started messing around with it and I figured it out and I made 2 striped versions using mostly Atlas from Mason-Dixon Knitting. I striped, and the other, I striped some of the leftover from the Pride of Ohio with one of the Atlas Modern Daily. Did I say Mason-Dixon? They changed their name years ago. It's Modern Daily Knitting Atlas. So I'm really happy with those, and I also played with the length a little bit. So I made one that's a little shorter in case I sent these to a couple who I think they could actually share them. They're in very gender neutral colors, and one is a little longer and one's a little shorter. So I thought that was sort of nice variety. And then I made one out of sea change fibers. In their Ecolo worsted, which is, let me pull this up, I'm pretty sure that is a merino, yeah, it's 85% merino, 15% ahimsa silk. So just, I mean, super drapey. The character of that one is a little bit different because it's so soft and drapey. I don't think it has as firm of a stand-up as this one. And then I also made another one out of another sea change fiber, Ecolo worsted. I made them in 2 different colors. And in fact, I have enough leftovers from both of those. I might stripe that and make yet another one maybe to keep for myself. So one was like a sea foamy green that I sent to someone who lives on Cape Cod, because that just seemed very beachy and Cape Cod appropriate. And the other one is this beautiful cream color that I sent to another dear friend who does wear a lot of like neutrals and things like that. So I figured that would be something they could pair with a lot of different things. All that to say, 7 bandana cowls. I find me, you know, myself reaching for this all the time. I think my friends who've just received them, it's just, it's December 27th right now. So gifts are just arriving and being unwrapped for the holiday season, and I hope that they will enjoy them. Super easy pattern, super easy to embellish. I know lots of people have done embroidery on them to add a little bit of interest, which I think would be wonderful. These are also really nice because I am out and about a lot without a car. We go hiking or we go walking around town or I take the train somewhere, and what I really appreciate about this is that I can pop it in my bag and it's super compact. I do love my shawls and I wear a lot of shawls, but if I decide to take it off, I need somewhere to put it. And this just offers me another option that is good when I'm going to be on the go without a car. So, finished object number 1 of my own is the bandana cowl. Finished object number 2 is a sweater I want to just briefly mention because I did an entire video about it. So this is the Ruka pullover by Sari Nordland, and I knit it in 3 undyed shades of Lanny's Lana, which is a Rambouillet, an unbelievable farm yarn that is dreamy, buttery, and it was so much fun. I test knit this for Sari Nordland, and it was so much fun. And I have a separate video. If I can figure out how to put that little eye bar up in the corner, I'm going to do that. But if you just look through my other videos, you'll see I did an entire episode all about this. So I'm not going to talk much more about it, except to say it's beautiful and very wearable because of all the neutrals that it's made out of. I will talk about the sweater I'm wearing, but I will show you that I am actually wearing these very fun pants that are like this copper color, and I'm always a little bit like, what do I wear with them? I don't know. And like, you know what? When you have a fun neutral sweater like this Ruka sweater, it just gives you all kinds of options. You can wear it with, I think, just about anything. So, whole video on that if you want to check that out. And the other finished object that I want to mention is the one that I am wearing. So I'm going to remove the cowl for a moment so you can see. Oh, another thing this cowl is great for. You have a V-neck sweater on. It's great to just cover up that if you want to. So this sweater, let me stand up again so you can see. This sweater, dun, 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 is called The Camaro by Tanis Lavalley, and she goes by Tanis Fiber Arts, and you can see people have done some really interesting things with the color work here. This is a top-down interesting construction V-neck where the color work obviously comes out here onto the sleeves, and then I've chosen a very neutral color for the body. But if you look online, you'll see that people have done all sorts of interesting color combinations. You can easily vary how thick or how wide the stripes are, and it was just really interesting to see it come together. I made this. I'm going to give a little word of caution about this, that I do know some other people had a little bit of challenge with the pattern. I feel a little bit like I just sort of, did the genie thing, and I feel very lucky that it came out fitting me because it was not a construction that I was used to. Didn't exactly feel like I could try it on along the way as I went, but I'm super happy with how it came out. And I used Jill Draper Ansel for this. One caveat about that is that Ansel is a fingering weight yarn, and this is a DK weight pattern. And what kind of magic is that? It's all the magic of woolen spun yarn and being a loose knitter and being happy with a very drapey result. So Ansel is a fingering weight. It is next to Skin Soft. It comes in remarkable colors and worked great for me for this pattern, but you might want to make sure you could get gauge. You might actually hold 2 strands of Ansel together if you're more of a tight knitter than I am and still be fine. But I got gauge. I got DK weight gauge using a fingering weight yarn. So I got this Ansel. Jill was selling minis of Ansel, which sometimes she has on her site as well. I got these at the Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival, and she also had them for sale at her like open studio type event that was the same weekend as Rhinebeck. She's based in Kingston, which is where I live for half of the year, Kingston, New York, which is just across the river from Rhinebeck. So you could check out Jill's site. She sells extensively online. She always sells Ansel. I don't know if it's only during festivals that she offers the minis, but any minis that you might have. I was even thinking about all the advent calendars that I think people have been opening, and maybe you got one that was sport weight or DK weight, or you want to do something funky like me and see if you can get a DK gauge with fingering weight yarn. This would be a great way to use up scraps or smaller skeins, mini skeins. Yeah, what else can I tell you about this? I'm going to throw in, if I can find them, I did take pictures with a few people at Rhinebeck this year. This pattern came out in 2017, but I just made it in 2022. I made it in June of 2022. So I wore it to the New York Sheep and Wool Rhinebeck Festival in 2022 and actually spotted a few other people with it on and, went running up to them in my excitement and got a picture with a number of people who had also made this Camaro. So that is finished object number 3 of my own. I do keep all of the modifications in my pattern notes on Ravelry. The one thing that I will mention I did differently is that the way the pattern is written, it's kind of a rolled neck. It's just stockinette here, and it was also a little bit wider, and I knew that that wasn't going to be what I would totally dig. So what I did is I knit fewer rounds in this purple color than I did. I think I did 8 rounds in the purple and then switched to blue, and I think all the other colors I did 10 rounds, and I did that on purpose so that I could come back and finish it afterwards. And I'm really glad I did, because I ended up picking up those stitches, doing a 1x1 rib, and also doing a few decreases, particularly around the shoulders, to bring it in a little bit. And now I'm very happy with how it came out. So, should we move on to works in progress? I have 2 very fun ones to tell you about. Let me pull up my notes so I can give you some of the detail. Which one should we talk about first? Let's talk about the Joji Locatelli pattern called Rugged Coat that I am making out of a gorgeous yarn that I bought at Woolen Folk this year that is from Renninger Farms. So I'll talk just briefly about the yarn for just a moment. Renninger Farms is a small farm in Pennsylvania. I think they have 25 sheep, if I remember correctly. It's a small flock that that she manages purely for shearing and turning their fiber into wool, into spun yarn. And I just absolutely fell in love with this yarn. So this is a DK weight and 3-ply. That all came from a sheep named Fiona. So this is Fiona from the 2022 clip, and it's this beautiful mocha is all I can think of when I look at it. I'm not sure that's exactly the right color. Let me hold it up against some other stuff. So this is more of an oatmeal. So it's darker, it's a little more brown than this oatmeal color, but it's definitely much lighter than this chocolatey brown from Paula's farm. And it's got a really high twist on the yarn, so I knew that anything I did with it, any textures or cables, were just gonna pop. And I have this Joji Locatelli coat that I made a few years ago called Adventurous, that is a long cabled cardigan that I find myself enjoying wearing frequently, and wanted 2 improvements to it for me. One is I really wanted pockets. So maybe I'll come back and do afterthought pockets on that another time. But I really miss when I'm wearing a very long coat and it's a little fiddly to get to any pockets that might be on the pants I'm wearing. I really long for an easy access place to just put my phone or my key or whatever as I am out and about. I also really love the look of the open front, but I find it's not super practical because it just flaps open all the time. And that's often not, if I'm wearing something that's that heavy and that long of a garment, I generally want to wrap up in it. But I didn't really want to change the look, and I thought about putting like buttonholes or doing something like that. And so I think what I've decided, I'm at the point where I could still change my mind, so maybe you want to weigh in below. In the comment section, but I think I am going to leave it button free. And I was remembering a project I made long ago where I used these sew-on snaps that were huge and decorative. And that might be the answer for me, is to put those on after the fact, and maybe even just one, like right here, to hold it together. This is where I, right now, usually use a shawl clip or a shawl pin on the existing sweater. But why don't I stop gabbing about it and show you what this looks like. Ta-da! This is how far I am. This is a work in progress. So you can see these just absolutely beautiful textured stitches. This is a broken rib and a pretty simple cable. I don't need a cable needle to do this cable in this sort of stickier yarn. But the pattern just really pops and really shows really well. This is the back. And it's got a drop shoulder. Let me see if I can put it on over my sweater and give you an idea. Layering of the knits. Okay, yeah, let me come back down here into view. So this is a drop shoulder, so I will pick up and knit the sleeves down from here, and this is where the shoulder will be. And it's a little scrunched up on the needles, but I think this kind of gives you an idea of what this is going to look like. Let me show you the back. It's wonderful. I am at the point, it's got a super interesting construction, and I'm going to make a whole video just about this sweater. That's my plan anyway. I've been taking some video clips as I go along because the construction is really super interesting, and I found it helpful. The people who on their project pages on Ravelry had shown some pictures at different project stages, because you actually start in the middle of the neck in the back. I don't know if you can see my cast on edge right there, and I'm going to flip it around to the right side now, and you like come out and do one part of the neck and start to increase, and you do another part of the neck and start to increase, and then you pick up stitches, and then you end up increasing and just doing the left front and then just doing the right front, and then you put all the stitches on one needle and connect it all under the arms. So super interesting construction. I don't think I've ever done that before, and that was really fun. And now I'm at the point where it's all on the needles and it's all just straight knitting, I think, down from here. Maybe I will do some increases for the hips. I snuck in a couple of uncalled for increases for the bust right after I split for the sleeves. I obviously still have to do the sleeves, but it's really nice now that it's all on one needle, because there were a lot of separate needles. It's a little fiddly at the beginning, but really interesting construction, fabulous yarn to work with. So that is the Rugged Coat by Joji Locatelli. And the last work in progress I wanted to mention is made out of this Rain, Cloud, and Sage Unspun 2109. This is a new to me unspun yarn. I have used Nutidin and Manchalopi and really love those sweaters. And took the opportunity to try out Rain, Cloud, and Sage, which is a German-based yarn producer. And this is all from like small local farms by where they are in Germany. And it's been wonderful. I think it's just met that lovely balance of durability and softness. And I have been working with 2 strands held together, which is giving me like a heavy Aran weight, I would say. And the sweater I'm making out of this also had fascinating construction, and I feel like I should probably make a separate video for this. It is also a work in progress. So this is the Taki cardigan by Sari Nordland. I'm a big Sari Nordland fan. I generally find that her patterns are interesting and well written and fit me well. So this is also a drop sleeve, if you can see. Drop shoulder, drop sleeve, I don't know how you call that. Sort of a very minimalist cardigan. So there's a little bit of ribbing detail here. And the rest of it is plain stockinette. It had fascinating construction that if you're interested, maybe you could leave me a note below and I will make a separate video really detailing exactly what was involved in this construction. But the gist of it is that, again, you start like in the middle of this collar and you end up making a little piece of the front and a little piece of each front, and then you knit them as separate pieces. So you do the left front where all the other stitches are on hold and you're just knitting down, doing some increases and knitting down for the front, left front, and then you do the same thing for the right front, and then you do the same thing for the back, and then you put them all on the needle together, which I just did, and it left this big opening where I will come back and pick up stitches and make the sleeves. There's a beautiful detailing here on the shoulder with the way that the increases were done there, and that detailing is mimicked down the sleeve as well. And what I'm super interested to check out about this cardigan is that if you look on Sari Nordland's project page for this, pattern page, you will see that this has been designed to be worn as I just showed it to you, with this kind of higher shawl collar. Or you flip it upside down and put it on and you get this like sort of mermaidy, dippy thing in the back and a little shorter in the front. And I'm fascinated to see if and how this works for me with the yarn that I've chosen, and that was just a very intriguing prospect to me to try making that. This unspun yarn just broke. And if you've never worked with unspun yarn, don't worry. It happens all the time and it's so easy to fix. But I would say, I don't know, in each ball of yarn, when I'm working with it, if I'm like not being super careful, I probably break it 4 times, 5 times maybe, but it's so easy. You just literally lay that piece over the other one and just keep knitting. And so it takes a little getting used to deal with unspun yarn, but it's such a joy. And I was describing this to friends earlier and I was trying to remember who said this. So I feel sort of bad because I can't attribute this to, I can't remember who said this, but they said putting on a sweater in unspun yarn felt like being hugged by an angel. I don't have any idea what being hugged by an angel feels like, but I can tell you when I put this on to try it on and send my friends a picture, the warmth was instantaneous, even with just this little piece, and you can barely tell that you've got it on because it's light as a feather. It is so light. So it's super enjoyable. The 2 sweaters I've made so far in Manchalope and Nutidin each weigh like less than half a pound. So I reach for them all the time. They are more delicate sweaters though. So these are not items that are going to hold up to any rough wear and tear. These are, it's much stronger when you knit the the unspun pieces together. It's not like what I just showed you where it just breaks in a heartbeat. So I'll show you if you've never worked with unspun yarn before, like this is what you're working with, and if you pull on it in just the wrong way, it literally just comes apart. There's no spin on it whatsoever. But when you want to keep knitting, and that's happened, you just lay those pieces over each other, and I don't even do this twisty thing. I just lay them over each other and keep knitting. And if you pull on it close together, it doesn't come apart. I'm pulling quite hard. It's when you get further apart without the twist on it that it can just come apart like air. So there's a little bit of getting used to what that means to knit with it and not tugging on your yarn a certain way. But once it's in the garment as constructed, it's not going to come apart like that. It's just a little more delicate in that, like I wore one with a backpack, and I started to feel like, oh gosh, I wonder if that might felt it just from the movement of the backpack across it. Whereas this Renninger yarn, for example, has such a high twist on it that I would not be worried about that in the slightest. So this is why we get to knit with and experiment with different yarns, because they all have different properties and do different things and fit different projects. So that was a whole lot about a few projects that I've just finished or that I have going on. I do have a pair of socks on the needles, and I have another project I'm about to cast on. So I will show you that next time, maybe along with some other recent finished objects, because I knit a lot. And so I have a lot of finished objects, and I didn't want to make this podcast, 2 hours long going through all of my finished objects. But if there's something in particular that you are more curious to hear about, are you interested in the unspun sweaters? Do you want to hear more about those and what it was like to work with those? Or do you want to hear more about other accessories that I created, or other sweaters I created? Feel free to drop me a note if you want to hear about something in particular. I hope you have something fun on your needles or your hook or your needle or whatever the tool of your preferred craft is at the moment, whatever is keeping you cozy and warm. And I will see you again soon. Bye.